Hey nerds, just got out of Poltergeist, and before that I actually saw Insidious 3. And I didn't originally think I was going to compare any of the movies that I saw today, but since Insidious, at least to me, was always, at least the first one was homage to Poltergeist, I thought that I guess I kind of have to. Because there is one super obvious glaring difference, trying to forget everything else about the two movies. Poltergeist was filled with CG. Like, when you talk about good horror movies, especially ones from the 80s, you tend to hear the phrase less is more. And so with the Poltergeist remake, they decided, F that, we have a huge budget, so why not make it a CG powerhouse? And I saw it in 2D, not 3D, so I can't say how the experience is in 3D, but I am one of the people who says, hey, it can definitely enhance the experience, but it does not define the experience. So taking that into account, I'd say they didn't need the huge budget. And the reason I think this is because Insidious 3, I think, just looking at it, it has a lower budget. Not to say that it looks really bad at all, but a lot of the scares, or even just like the jump scares in Insidious 3 were, or just the Insidious movies in general, I can go about all three of the Insidious movies, are just more, they kind of throw you off. Not all of them are a ghost reaching up and touching you. It's kind of like the subtle things. And if you really have to choose between the two movies, it hurts to have to say this, but yeah, you're gonna have to go in Insidious 3 if you had to choose between those two movies when you're at the movie theater. I guess I'll go in reverse because I actually saw Insidious 3 before Poltergeist just now. So I'll say it's easy to get into if you haven't seen the first two, because it's a prequel. But also, if you have seen the other two, you're going to be, especially if you haven't done a whole bunch of research or seen the trailers extensively, you're going to be like, where does this fit? Because at first you might think, oh, wait, this is before all the Insidious movies. But no, 3 is actually between, well, actually it's not between. It's before 1, but barely before 1. Whereas I expected it to be like, I don't know, years, maybe even before the events of the first one took place, even the flashbacks, like all the stuff when the dad was a kid. But I'm going to try not to get into stuff about movies you haven't seen, or may not have seen. I'll just say that Insidious 3 was definitely a pretty solid entry in the series. I think I am gonna have to say that you should, if you can see it in the theater, see it in the theater. But if you're in a dark room and you're prone to jumping, then you're probably going to jump quite a bit. Story's solid, although you're gonna feel one way or the other about it because it lends itself to the whole continuity of Insidious. So if you end up not being too hot on it, you're gonna like it even less because you're gonna want to watch more to get a full story, because it kind of promises a lot. And because it's a prequel, of course, you know, going in that it wasn't going to be the last entry in the series. It felt a little different than the other Insidious movies, probably because the younger character, or the main young character in this one, is a senior in college. A senior in high school. So it actually lends itself more to a certain generation right now, as opposed to just the regular horror tropes. Sorry about the lighting. I'm just kind of doing this as I walk. I actually expected to be able to use my actual camera, but I think for these kind of videos, I'm gonna exclusively use my phone because it's actually a treat to be able to come out of the theater and immediately start recording, because it's a different type of way to express my feelings about the movie and analysis. It's not gonna be as perhaps spot on, but maybe it just recreates, man, it's loud over here. It definitely recreates the feeling of coming out of the movies and talking to whoever you saw it with about said movies. Continuing on though, I think you should see Insidious 3 if you do like horror movies. If you're not super into them, it's probably not going to change your mind. But if you've been looking for a horror movie to get you out of the humdrumness of current horror movies, you definitely should check it out. Side note, my favorite horror movie this year is actually It Follows, so check that out if you've ever heard of it or if it piques your interest. I'm not going to tell you anything about it though, at least not in this video. Moving on to Poltergeist, to get a little bit more specific. It starts off trying to build up the tension, but it moves a little fast and it feels like it's making fun of itself at the same time. And it's okay for a movie to poke fun at itself, but the thing with Poltergeist was just really that for anyone who was a fan of the original film, myself included, it's sort of a slap in the face for it to make jokes about the original without living up to the original. And of course, there's only a problem that people who've seen the original are going to face. And remakes are okay, and it's okay for things to not go exactly like the other ones did, but I think probably the movie's greatest weakness isn't necessarily the acting or the screenplay. It's its reliance on its effects, honestly. There are some definitely creepy moments, but I feel like they're not fully realized. And at the end of the day, a horror movie can only do so much if it's not solid in all its other aspects. And I feel like Poltergeist didn't really have as much identity. And I think that, ironically, the people who aren't going to be as pissed about the fact that it's that it doesn't live up to the original, the movie is kind of lost on, because they'll see it as kind of a rinky-dink regular horror movie, because Poltergeist started a huge trend, and it's a horror movie that a lot of people look up to. I feel like at least as much as something like Halloween. I mean, for the ghost genre of horror movies, it's definitely a top tier powerhouse. I mean, there's actors that have even, the original actors, some of them have died under mysterious circumstances. So that tells you what type of precedent the movie has, and just like thinking about it can be kind of creepy. But I feel like I'm talking up the original so much. At the end of the day, I can't honestly recommend it. What I will recommend is you watch the original, which I actually recommended to about 5 high school kids coming out of it with me, because they were like, man, that movie sucked. I was like, well, you just need to see the original. And they actually said, hey, what is the original? And I said, Poltergeist, same name. It really sucks that you went into this movie without knowing it. I would have thought that going in without knowing it would have helped you, but I guess sometimes you just can't do much. Although I do applaud, I always applaud the efforts of filmmakers and everyone who helps make films possible. But unfortunately, not everything can be a hit, and not everything can be scary. So I hope this wasn't too long. I did try to do 2 at once, and I hope that didn't, maybe it did lower my focus a little bit, but these videos are only going to get better with time. So see you later, nerds. Have a good night or day.